The one to watch is going to be this.
Ladies and gentlemen, I now call to order our October board meeting, not board meeting, council meeting. I've been too many places this week. I'd ask you to join us in a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together tonight. We have a busy agenda. We pray that the actions we take tonight will be pleasing in your sight. We thank you for the rains that we've desperately needed. Father, we just thank you for everything you've given us. We thank you for the town that we are and the town that we will become with your vision and our adherence to your values. Father, we ask this time you hold deep in your care the family of Eugene Claiborne Sr., who has gone on to claim his eternal reward. And Father, we just thank you for anybody. We ask for your help for any families tonight that are hurting, that are going through challenges. And we ask that if anything we do tonight in any small way can help them, we would be eternally grateful. We ask for these things in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. We invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Happy autumn, everybody. If you look at the agenda, you will know that we have a very busy agenda. It's busy on the front end after we get through the hearings and the visitors. But for the interest of our attempted brevity, because brevity breeds clarity, I'm going to ask the speakers tonight can try to contain their remarks to within 3 minutes. I'm not going to have a stopwatch on you, but if you start drifting or there are others that are with you, that agree with you, we may ask for a show of hands just to expedite the people's business. Because after about 2 or 3 hours, we all get a little inattentive. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 public hearings tonight. The first is for Wanda J. Epps. And keep in mind, all the public hearings you're going to hear tonight have gone before the Planning Commission, and they will have had a recommendation. But the council, by code, must hear it again. Mr. Van Norbeck?
We have an application from Wanda Epps to rezone 3 parcels of property. There's a survey attached, and if you look at the survey that's attached, you'll see the 3 parcels, one of which has an existing single-family home that Wanda owns that her mother lives in. A second property that Wanda has owned historically, and then a property that she's acquired from LV and Lynette Harris. LV Harris and Lynette Epps. The request is to go from BG, that North Main area is considered business general. The request is to make it R2 so that she can accommodate a single-family home to be built on those 2 vacant lots.
The Planning Commission heard this. What did the Planning Commission recommend before we go into hearing?
I say it was unanimous. Myra was not here, so there were only 4 members, but it was unanimously approved by the 4 present.
Okay. Members of council, you've heard the request. I'll now go into public hearing. Anyone to speak against this request? Anyone opposing the request of Wanda J. Epps? I believe I saw Ms. Epps in the audience. Yes, I did. Took the glasses off, but I see you. Anyone to speak in favor of the request? It was recommended 4-0 by the Planning Commission.
Correct.
And this does fall in line with zoning in that part of town, in that area.
If you remember, we rezoned some years ago a piece of property for Frankie Williamson, and he built a duplex right there, which is actually right next door to her, where her mother resides.
Okay.
And so it is residential in character, and her request, she'd like to build a home next to where her mother lives in order to accommodate that.
I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion from council.
Move that we approve the rezoning request from GB to R2.
Second.
We've got a motion in several seconds. We'll give the second to Mr. Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We also have a 4-0 recommendation to approve a request from Sandra M. Tucker Jones. Mr. Vanderbeck?
The request is somewhat similar, but in this instance, Ms. Jones would like to use a type of housing that's permissible only in the R3 heavy residential district. Her request is to rezone from the R2 district to the R3 district, a 50-foot wide lot previously owned by Felix Foltz, which is now owned by Ms. Jones. And on that piece of property, she'd like to put a manufactured home. She lives in a manufactured home in the adjacent parcel that was put there in the late 80s. I think we learned at the last Planning Commission meeting. In order to accommodate a manufactured home, not a modular home, it would require rezoning to the R3 district.
Okay, we'll go into public hearing. Anyone to speak against this request tonight? Anyone to speak for this request tonight? I see Ms. Jones on the back. I entertain a motion by council. Once again, this was recommended for approval by the planning commission, and the zoning, as you explained, is consistent. The proposed rezoning is consistent with that in that area.
If you guys remember, Gilbert Ruffin approached us 2 or 3 years ago and was interested in putting some apartments in, and that was directly across the street, and that property was rezoned to the R3 zoning district, which is the same that she's requesting. So we're just enlarging an existing R3 enclave.
The
Very
house
good.
would, house would sit deep wise, it would,
It's going to have to. It's only 50 foot wide, and a traditional manufactured home, I was just talking to Ms. Jones, I think it's 24 wide by 44 long, so she's going to have to squeeze that rascal in sideways because it's only 50 foot wide. That would only give her about 2 or 3 feet on each side on the setbacks, and I've explained that to her.
Okay. Mr. Miller, I heard you make a motion to approve. Is there, Mr. Nash, a second? And once again, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Public hearing number 3 is a little more complicated. Just to keep you on point, you've heard a lot about gaming ventures. The first part of this tonight's hearing is to change the zoning to allow gaming, games of skill, which are currently allowed only in the what we call the Food Lion and Walmart shopping centers. That's called the Specialized Business District of Blackstone. There's a request to expand that to business general, which would include places like, for example, the old medical center building. If council is to approve this public hearing, this request, that would make possible approving the other. If council follows the planning commission recommendation and does not approve the text amendment, that makes the old medical center issue moot because it's in a GB zone. Is that fair?
Perfect. Text amendment was not recommended for approval by planning.
And that was a 4-0 vote as well to deny that request. Who would like to speak tonight to change the zoning of Blackstone to allow computer-based games of skill in the BG zone, which is a much larger area throughout Blackstone? Who would like to speak against doing that? Keep it status quo. Keep it like it is. Keep it out of the shopping center. I'll close the public hearing. Members of council, what is your pleasure? The planning commission recommended for now keeping it as is. Am I correct?
For y'all's informational purposes, Jennifer did put this map up on the wall. I'm going to give you some perspective. Excuse me. The purple areas, even the ones that we just rezoned, which are on the very north end of Main Street,
All right.
it incorporates downtown. It incorporates kind of parallel along with South Main Street and Church Street for the most part. The SD districts really are, as the mayor said, Food Line and the Walmart Shopping Center. Those are the 2 areas that were specifically zoned SD in response to, I think, a business that was trying to open up here downtown.
It opened downtown. And then closed.
And the planning commission had several months ago, when you guys considered a request, because it really was not addressed in our zoning ordinance, and it was approved for, I think, Players Vape, I think is the name, and they're currently located in the shopping center at the Food Line Shopping Center.
But that Players Vape is the vape is fine. It's the gaming aspect.
Gaming aspect of it, the vape is a retail, we consider.
We have that
if you want
downtown.
To sell vaping products or smoke shop or whatever, that would be permissible now.
Members of council, the planning commission voted 4-0 against expanding computer-based gaming throughout town for now. And just not to get into the weeds here, but the General Assembly is probably going to take some action clarifying some controversy about, what's a game of skill, what's a game of chance, that sort of thing. I will note, Chief, you're in the audience, I have not heard, as far as the venture added Food Lion, the Players Vape, I have a scanner. They seem to have been a quiet neighbor. I know they're busy, but I've not heard a lot of calls out there. Would that be correct?
That would be correct.
Okay.
if we deny this request and go along with the planning commission, what about the games that are currently in convenience stores now? To me, they need to be gone immediately, I would think.
Well, I think we need a little guidance on it before we jump. I think these guys, I've sent a letter to the folks that have machines here in town, East Coast Amusements or East Coast Entertainment. We sent the treasurer sent a letter saying you don't have business license, obviously. We received a phone call back from East Coast Amusements, and they did indeed say, we don't own the machines. You need to talk to the owner of the machines, who is Queen of Virginia, okay? And Queen of Virginia's attorney called us back. We had a long conversation with him. He's obviously of the opinion that indeed they are very legal. that and he had described how the ownership, the management of the machines, and the ownership of the situs split the revenues from the collection. 40% of the collection, according to this gentleman, is paid to the property owner. 40%. So that should be included. That revenue should be included, and we may have to do something to track that. Should be included in the business owner's business license gross receipts.
Right.
He said 30% is the owner of the Queen of Virginia. He said they pay their taxes to Henrico County, and that may be the case when you are sited in a particular location and your business is outside the boundaries of Henrico County or Richmond, and 30% is supposed to be paid to the operators of the machine, who is East Coast Amusements.
But going to Mr. Nash's point, if they're located in an area that's not SB, specialized business, they need to be, they're not allowed. Is that
Not
correct?
allowed in our zoning.
Without, and we spoke to the gentleman about it, and he said, well, can we get the business license portion of it? And I said, you have to receive a zoning permit first.
That's correct.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
a zoning permit would require, obviously, getting into compliance. But it is a circumvention. I was in Community Convenience the other day with a water leak, and they've got an arcade in the back with these machines.
Okay. Speaking of this weekend, I happened to be going up to Scottsboro, and I went into the store. And at the same time, when I went into the store, I don't know whether it was a Commonwealth attorney or who it was, and they came in and slapped signs on all those machines, and they said that Queen is illegal. Now, and Tom will probably vouch for the same thing. The VFW in itself got a letter stating that you cannot deal with Queen, and all you have here in Blackstone is Queen.
At Queen of Virginia, you go to Buffalo Wild Wings in Chesterfield, they're loaded down with them as well, an entire line. I think I would ask before council made an action to say immediately, let's see if our attorney can advise just a little
well, I
bit,
mean,
so
if
we
that's the
don't end
case,
up
then
jammed up.
why are we even discussing the one at the medical center?
Right.
Because, well, that's true. Like I said, they should just snuck on in. They should just gone on and snuck on in.
Fairness. And if you guys are comfortable with it,
I mean, I think
we can press forward
our
and
zoning states that
say
it's
that
not
they've got a zoning problem and send it to the property owner, that these types of machines are not permissible. We
Well, I make a
everybody else
motion,
do
we
it.
accept the planning commissioner's request and not allow.
Good move. Mr. Morgan's made it, and Mr. Nash has seconded. Is that correct? All right, that's the issue at hand. The text amendment, the motion is to not expand computer-based gaming following the recommendation of the planning commission. Been duly made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That makes moot number 4, which is,
Now, can we go ahead and add to that we need to look into enforcing?
We absolutely need
Go ahead,
to
man.
do it. Yeah.
I think the council speaks to this motion. A
Make a
motion,
motion, should we do it immediately?
I think a motion would be in order. It gives you something to hang your hat, gives him something to hang his hat on.
I make a motion that, effective immediately, that all other gaming outside of the specialized business district is not permitted.
Right.
We'll notify the property owners and let them.
If they'd like to come in mass and make a request for a text amendment again, we might hear from more people. But I know one thing. You go to right by Food Line on Saturday night. You're like, man, Food Line's busy. You walk in there. No, they're all in there, and you got signs up. We will not cash $100 bill. We will not break $100 bill. I'm like, what's going on next door? I'm like, oh, okay. That's what. I want to get my wheat thins. Get out of here.
It's certainly questionable. I certainly agree with you that it's a questionable. I don't want to lead the town into a unwanted or unwarranted
course
lawsuit
not.
or anything.
Of course
but,
not.
We're making everybody jump through hoops, and they're everywhere in town.
Yeah.
And the General Assembly, I think, is going to speak. It'll give us greater clarity. But for now, we got a zone ordinance, and it says you can have them all day long in the SB zone.
Got it.
And that brings us to public hearing number 5. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 5-0. That brings us to issue number 5, which is I think, a request that has merit. And that's a request from, it's a LLC. It's called 804 Fall Street LLC because the owner was going to buy a house. That fell through, but they kept the name. But this is to have a computer-based gaming facility in the Walmart shopping center, which is allowed by zoning. The only reason it's coming before the council is the zoning requires a conditional use permit.
Anything in the SB district would require a conditional use permit. I point to you his proffer statement, and there are 4 conditions which mirror or exactly the same as those.
And that was the letter that we sent to Players District.
The conditions that were offered by Mr. Short with Players Vape, and it's also listed in his application. The establishment shall close no later than 11 o'clock p.m. daily. The establishment shall provide security satisfactory to the Blackstone Police Department at the establishment's expense on Friday and Saturday evenings from dusk until closing. a 90-day review upon opening the business, abide by the state code that governs computer-based gaming, or it may result in the revocation of the conditional use permit. So if
It's
they're
identical
machines-
to, identical to Players Bay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put a cap as to how many of these establishments can,
I don't think you can legally.
You've
do
done
it.
that by your zoning, basically. You've more or less,
Yeah.
I mean, unless you want to go and say we're not gonna have more than 4, but then you're gonna get in litigation when number 5 comes up.
Right.
I mean, then how do you say that you're not gonna have another garden center in the town of Blackstone? I mean,
Correct.
I'd love to come and have
Why
some.
would we want that? We've got the best one in the world.
as well as head in the morning.
I will enter the public, who would like, we're now going to public hearing, who would like to oppose the request to allow 804 Fall Street LLC to operate where it's allowed in the Walmart Shopping Center? This is simply a conditional use permit to obtain a bit, to be able to do it. Anyone like to speak for? This would be gaming venture number 2 that's legal in Blackstone. I see no one. I entertain a motion by council to either approve, the planning commission did recommend 4-0. No, that vote was a little bit closer. That vote was like 2 to 1 to 1.
It's 2-1-1.
That's correct.
There's 2 commissioners in favor, 1 abstained, 1 dissented, and 1 was absent. All right, but it was a vote in favor of to recommend. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Mr. Nash is second to Ms. Hasbrook's motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0. Members of council, you have your minutes from your special meeting of August 14th and your regular meeting of September 16th. Any corrections or clarifications?
Move to approve the minutes from August 14th and September 16th as presented.
Second.
Mr. Morgan is second to the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Our fire chief, Chief Tomer, is back with us. Oh, pardon me, my agenda had, I knew something was wrong. Our first visitor, I believe, is Baxter Stegall. And tonight, you know, we had you on a 1-minute time limit last week, Mr. Stegall. We're gonna give you about 3 tonight.
Mr. Mayor, Madam President, members of council, thank you for your time. I apologize in advance to the mayor and to Ms. Bacon, who have heard this before. Certainly, the council is aware that I'm running for Commonwealth's attorney here in the county, and I'd like to come with an offer if elected. First, I feel that transparency and accountability are 2 of the most important character traits that any public servant should have. I've been a public servant my entire adult life. Every month, the police departments of the 3 towns and the sheriff have the opportunity to offer status reports on their activities to their respective legislative bodies. But often, the citizens of the county or its towns have a difficult time having ability to follow up on those activities. So I'm offering, if I'm elected, to provide this council a report similar in scope to the one that I've presented and that I've passed out to the citizens for its review, and also to provide an attorney from the office to be available at the meetings if council wishes to ask questions about the report. This is something that's not currently done, even a verbal report, and I'd like to offer it as a way to keep the office accountable, keep myself accountable if elected, and to remind the county that that office is one that is a public servant to every citizen in the county. I've already spoken to Crew and Bergville, as well as to the County Board of Supervisors, and I'd make the same offer to this council if it chooses. I think this is a good way to show that transparency and that accountability. To the specific report itself, you'll see it's my imaginary creation of the County of Pickett. As I explained last week, that's so that if this gets left around, no one picks it up and is shocked by my fake invented statistics of crime, because I have no idea. These are literally, I just invented the numbers.
Some might say the county has a town called Pickett, but that's another story.
Right. But in general, the first and most important would be it would only be on cases that have been disposed of. Prosecutors' ethics rules do not allow us to comment on pending cases except for very specific remarks, basically how far along the hearing, you know, what the next hearing is and what the status of that hearing was, that sort of thing. So it would only be on past cases. It would include, it would be about a full month to the past to give the office a month to prepare the report and to make sure that it's accurate. It would include the number of indictments at the last term. We have a term every 2 months here in Ottawa, as we do in Lunenburg. The number of indictments that were true billed and those that were not true billed. It would not include sealed indictments, which is traditionally drug work. Then it would go through total number of cases disposed of during the report month, splitting up by felonies and misdemeanors. Felonies of note, certainly anytime you have a homicide or aggravated assault, that kind of thing, drug distribution, and other types of crimes that citizens in the county might determine that they'd ask beyond the report. And the misdemeanors, misdemeanors are your minor crimes, but of note, always you have DUIs, domestic assaults, and that kind of thing. The town wants to see that the hard work of its police department has been followed up on in court.
It's a very good point. We do get a police report which tells you, we get the report, the call report, and the charge report, but that would sort of like give the ending.
Full circle.
Yeah,
Lastly, and this is not so much, well, eventually it will be y'all's problem as well, and that's the funding issue as it affects everyone. Right now, the General Assembly has pushed out an unfunded mandate related to body-worn cameras. You guys do wear body-worn cameras, is that right, Chief?
Yes, sir.
Therefore, there is a requirement in place to staff a sufficient number of attorneys to review that kind of footage in the discovery process, and I'm sure that criminal defense attorneys appreciate that. The idea there is that there's material that's likely in those videos that needs to be reviewed by attorneys to spot exculpatory information and the kind of things that have to be passed out by law. And that number of hours helps calculate the staffing levels for the office, so that the number of hours received from the police agencies would be included in that report. Lastly, points of interest, if there's a particular case of note, a press release and a one-sentence blurb about it.
sure.
This is the sort of thing I'm offering to the council if it wishes to hear it.
Members of council, I would imagine we would be, well, if he's successful in the election, we would be interested in that, I believe.
Yes, absolutely.
We thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Madam President, members of council, thank you very much for your time.
We wish you well. It's
Am I have
winding
3
down.
minutes? Am I for 3 minutes?
You're close. Close enough. Good closing argument there. All right. Next up, we have no stranger to this council, Mr. Lewis Johnson.
Hey, Mayor,
Yes,
I'm gonna let Mrs. Lester come on up here because she got a little baby, so she can go home.
absolutely.
It's not gonna be that long.
That's fine.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm here to remind everybody about my march that is coming up Sunday, the 27th at 1:30 p.m. We will be meeting at the old Pizza Hut building, and we'll be marching down to the love sign at the town square. It's a non-violent march. A lot of people saying they can participate, so I'm very excited about it. I mean, even Ms. Lester, we might have a little live groups out there singing a little bit to bring everybody together. I also invite the town council members. Hope that you all will show up to this also. Now, my second part on this thing is about the voting for the Armory. If you all don't mind, can you add the new for building a new community center on the agenda? So if people don't just think that it's only about building the Armory, they don't have no other thing to fall back on. And if you do that, can you also have it so we don't keep going to voting for everything in the future?
Right.
I mean, because we don't need to be doing that every time something comes to Blackstone or we want to do something, we got to come and vote on it. But I believe if we get to solve these two problems right here with the Armory and the community center, if everybody say no, it's no.
Let me answer this. You and I are thinking alike, and of course, the council has not acted on a survey, and it may not be unanimous, but my way of thinking was if council decides to do a survey, and the legal opinion from the Attorney General is survey is more legal than a pseudo-referendum. I envision 4 questions. The Armory with the price tag, the community center, the recreation center with the estimated price tag we get from a viable source. C would be both, D, none of the above. That's a true survey.
And also, I think that we need to get a survey with the kids. That was the most important thing. If you're going to build something, you got to see that it's what they want. They don't need building a building if they're not going to go in there and participate in it.
As long as they can pay some tax. The only thing that the critics would say to that is they may want to, the kids aren't paying the tax and the parents are.
Right, but if you're going to build a building, if ain't nobody going to use it, we raising taxpayer money for 50 or 60 people. So you got to build something that's going to benefit the kids, and you got to see what they would like to have to attract them to come into that building.
I can assure you this, Mr. Johnson, I don't think I'll be speaking out of turn with the council. We had a retreat not too long ago that Ms. Hasbrook's husband facilitated. He did a wonderful job. This council agreed, of course, we couldn't take any action at a retreat, this calendar year, it's probably not gonna be tonight, but you're gonna see a vote on setting in motion the future of this cloud. The only cloud that I know of hanging over Blackstone has been what we're gonna do with the Armory, your proposal, and neither or both. Everything else is, I mean, it's a calm seas ahead, with Fast C and other stuff coming to town. So I do think your proposal is in line with what I'm hearing.
Well, we're gonna meet with this board of supervisors and school board members and see can we do a little survey at Nottaway High School with the kids, and we pass it out and let them write down what they want, and we come back and tally up everything what they done written down and see what the most of what they done written down comes to, and then we'll bring it to you all.
Well, if you bring, let me correct you, and pardon my interruption. If you do a survey at the high school, don't bring it to this body. You need to take that thing to the board of supervisors. Because that's where the money is.
It's going to both, because they got to be involved
Right.
in this regardless. I mean,
Sure.
if we was to do a recreation center, it should not be the town of Blackstone just paying for it by itself.
Amen,
I
brother.
mean, it should be the county. If everybody get up there and put their feet down, because we paying taxes on both sides of the field.
Right. Mr. Miller.
I heard you say you're going to the school board. What is your purpose of going to the school board?
Well,
First of all, I don't know if you're aware of it, but we did a presentation at the school board, the last school board meeting. So it must impress somebody, because we're meeting with them next Tuesday. Now, as I told you, and you and I in the town manager's office, you know, we really would like for nobody to get involved with that until we as council go talk to them.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Councilman, but what you all is talking about building is a little small thing, a little small recreation area in the gym. We is talking about doing it big.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
because if, and only just spending taxpayer money on something that's small, and then we can really expand if we want. I remember the mayor said a long time ago, if you're gonna do it big.
That's kind of what I do.
I mean, if we're not going up there knocking what you are done. I've been up there plenty of times and talked to these people up there at the school board and everything myself. I've been talking to Mr. Vaughn on this thing for a while, me and you.
Right.
You have, but I will tell you this.
I've been talking, so we're not going there to see what you have already planned. We're just going up there to see what the kids really want. That's the most important thing. We can't build a building and then we ain't got nobody to come in there, about 50 people. We're gonna pay millions of dollars for it.
Right. Well, one thing I'm encouraged by, I salute you for speaking to the county, and I think that's interesting. I don't mind telling you, and I've had private conversations, and I'll say this for everybody here. There is mixed intelligence. There is mixed intel on, and you've had good rapport with the board of supervisors. Hey, the supervisors are behind this, they're gonna do this. The supervisors I talk to are the same ones, I love them all dearly. Tight-fisted, can't afford 2 deputies for the sheriff. I mean, so there's a mix. There's an inconsistent communication, not on your point, but from what I'm hearing in my conversations with the county leaders. But I hope you're right. I hope it
I would
rains
certainly
money.
wait till after the election before you go talk to anybody else.
Mr. John, let me ask you this, getting back to Sunday. 1:30 at the old Pizza Hut, not at Sea Park.
Right.
Is there any what is the schedule of events? You can run us through that real quick. What are you expecting? And is there you had said something about.
I had said something about a speaker, but his wife took in sick, so he called me. He can't show up. So Miss Leslie, we were getting up there saying so be speaking. I got other people getting up there coming and speak,
Okay.
including you.
Will the speaking be at the Pizza Hut or be at the
No,
square?
it gonna be at the Love sign.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you right now, tell everybody, I'm walking for a cure for Alzheimer's on Saturday in Charlottesville, and I'll be walking for unity and love in Blackstone.
Let's just clarify this thing right now. This is not nothing against the Armory. This march, this don't have nothing to do with the Armory. This is trying to unite us together as one. There's only one race, and human race.
Gotcha.
And we got to remind people so that, and this is what this is about.
Hope you have a good crowd.
You know, and a lot of people is talking about showing up on both races. So I'm looking for a good crowd.
I think the churches are going to get involved too. What I've heard.
And I
So.
feel about need some more chairs. It's like 75, I think, for the people that can't walk.
Cheers.
Okay.
Should have had some.
I have one question.
Yes.
You said you was gonna go up to the school and talk to the kids?
No, I was going there and get permission first to talk to the board of supervisors first. before this had happened, me and Mr. Berry, before he left, we were gonna do a survey to see what the kids wanted to have, but when he left, they got on the back burner.
Gotcha.
So I'm just gonna be reminding some of the people what we had talked about doing and see.
Now, one thing I'm thinking, now what you're saying is good, but if you guys are gonna try to do a survey with the kids, you may wanna do something to where they can take it home and get
Right.
the parents involved.
Right.
You know, kind
Right.
of see what the parents is thinking.
That was the idea that I gave Mr. Johnson, because I'm new to all of this, we just moved back to town. I feel like the Armory and the, community center idea are separate. I don't see them as the same thing. I personally don't think that the town should pay for the Armory, just because I believe that it should have been sold to Mr. McCormick, but that's already passed. That's just my opinion. I support a community center because I have 4 children, and like yesterday, I would have loved to have a pool or somewhere to take them to get them out of my house, because they were on the point of like rollerblading down my staircase. So I'm all for, you know, trying to find grants, seeing if maybe there's private people that want to get involved to just help build that to where the young people in this town do have a safe place to go to, that they can get mentorship, maybe start an organization or branch off into an organization that's already in the town to help maybe do like a Boys and Girls Club, or help these children who don't really have that stability at home. And I know there are quite a few ministries in the area that do want to get involved in things like that, like reaching out to the youth and giving them constructive things to do so they're not getting into mischief. And a building like this, I feel like would greatly help that.
What is your son's name with you tonight?
This is our youngest out of the 4. His name is Christian. And
He's
he
behaved
currently-
very well.
Yeah, he currently hates anyone else that's not me. His teeth are driving him crazy.
Well, we thank you for coming here tonight, and Mr. Johnson, we thank you. We're getting there. I think community consensus is important, no matter what you do, whether it's building a park, ballpark, community consensus. I think this council is paralyzed only by one thing, and that is trying to find out what the community really wants and is willing to pay for. I really do believe that. And we all have different opinions up here, but that's the only thing that's paralyzed this project. And the fact that, as I said last meeting, we've had, when elected officials hear volume from a certain side and volume from the other side, even the strongest elected official clams up. They're like, okay, hunker down, move on, you know. So we're getting there. I really, like I said it before, I say it, this council right here, this is the 5th one to deal with the Armory and the other issues. This one's gonna solve. And Mr. Hasbrook, you just joined us, but I was praising you earlier for the facilitating you did that got us to that point at our retreat a couple weeks ago. So
Well, we, next month, we will come back before you all, but we'll have more details and a better line out.
That's fine.
What our plans is.
That's
and what
fine.
we propose in the future for the kids.
very good.
We will have everything more organized next month. At the
Thank you,
meeting.
Mr. Johnson.
Thank you.
And we thank you. Thank you, Christian. Christian, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Peanut.
His first word. All right. We got a third speaker out of 4, Miss Yvonne Jackson Wilson, our Director of Community Development. No stranger to any of us.
Thank you, Mayor, Lowtown Council members, and everybody. I'm actually here not on behalf of the town. Most of you, I do believe, know that I'm running for the Board of Supervisors in District 2. District 2 is in Crewe. And the reason why I still wanted to come and share, although the voters are not in Blackstone, is because if I am favored by the voters, I do look forward to being able to not just work with the district that I would represent, but also to be able to work with all leaders in the county as a whole. I'm running on working together, we can do more, and I do look forward to us being able to do more together. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the audience benefit, if you're a voter, I believe tomorrow night in Crewe at 7 o'clock at the Crewe Community Center, there's a function.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's, yes. And also, District 2 voters vote either at the Crewe Library or at the Nottoway Civic League.
That's right. They've gone across the street. The livestock market's been obsolete for a
Yes.
precinct. So now, good point.
Yes.
Very good point.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And last on our schedule list is Mr. Beverly Ames talking about the Blackstone Christmas Parade. We got a grand marshal yet? Okay. I've got some ideas we can collaborate on them later. If you do, if you need any, if you have some ideas of your own, that's fine too.
I want you in your car on time this year.
Talk to Mr. Osmond on that.
For those of you who don't know, the mayor and I have had this going on for 10 of the last 11 years.
And the parade's Friday the 13th this year, so good luck with that.
Yeah. Everything seems to fall on Friday the 13th
right.
for the chamber this year.
I haven't thrown a football in 2 years.
I've presented a letter to you guys that should be in your packet.
Yep.
And we are requesting, or first of all, letting you know that the parade will be held on Friday the 13th. And in the past, you guys have been very generous with a donation to help support this parade. And we're asking you to, again, consider supporting the parade.
What was the donation like? We went from 750 to 500. We kind of.
Actually, according to the minutes from last year, it was 750 is what you said.
Okay, all right. Members of council, what's your pleasure on the donation and the waiving the banner fee?
I move to approve, as you know, I love Christmas, $750 donation to the chamber, and then also to any street closings that we need to do, confer with the chief, and then waive the banner fee.
Ms. Thompson, second that motion.
We're using the same parade route we've used for the last several years.
Do we typically use a spotlight on that field?
We
I don't even
have
remember.
used it, and I have requested it, and then sometimes they remember, sometimes they don't. It really is beneficial because that's where the field at Bagley in Maine is where we line up the bands,
Yep, you do.
and it allows them to be able to see their music. And
That's kind of important. That's good.
yeah, and then it shows them where the street is and the field ends. So it's a safety issue more than anything.
All right, all in favor of Mr. Nash's motion to donate $750 as usual and to waive the banner fee as usual? Is there a second?
Second.
Give Ms. Jones a second. All in favor say aye. 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 Those have it. Thanks so much. And just speaking of Christmas, don't want to divert too much. Lighting Swartz Tavern, again, we're going to do like we did last year. Last year, Swartz Tavern looked pretty good. It was lit up. All right, very good. Moving on to the fire chief, Chief Tomer. Well, hold on, I'm sorry. Is anyone else here to speak to council tonight? There's two opportunities, one time now, and then at the end of the agenda before we adjourn. We do have a closed session tonight. Chief Tomer, the floor is yours. And we're making good pace, but let's continue that pace.
No pressure. Thank you for those that did come to our open house. I don't know what happened, but we really had an extremely low turnout than what we normally have every year. So it was kind of upsetting to see that, but we still provided a whole bunch of valuable information, and the kids that did come had a good time. For Halloween, we're going to be doing the truck or treat once again, where we're going to be handing out candy to the kids off the ladder truck in front of the fire station. So we'd like to have that on the route for the kids. The other thing that I did not include in there that I forgot to mention is we're going to be doing a drill this Saturday with Heritage Hall. It's they're required to do a mandatory evacuation drill. This gives a good prep for us. If we ever have to do it again, I want to say it's been 10 years since we had a incident there that required an evacuation. This is required by the state, so we're going to be doing this with the addition of Heritage Hall, hopefully Fort Pickett, Nottoway Rescue, and other agencies. But to do that, we'd like permission to close two streets. It would be 6th Street between Main and Lunenburg, and Academy between 5th and 6th.
What hours?
8 to 12.
I've got a little scar tissue from the weekend on Facebook complaints about the parking there is horrendous even on the best day between staff, visitors, which I've been for a number of years. And you did it last year and it went well. I'd recommend it, but we've got a really big issue over there that seems to be getting worse. Even though the number of residents there is not increasing, they're full all the time. It is just between church, staff, visitors, ambulances, the private transport ambulances come. It is a sea of confusion there.
Did we solve, I know we had discussed, and this has nothing to do with closing Saturday, Do we need to go ahead and make that motion? Just
But,
get that
yeah,
out?
thank you, Mr. Nash.
And I have been asked to do a code red, so I'm gonna send that out probably Friday, just to
Do a
remind.
code red and a code blue. Do
Move
them all.
move to allow the fire department, along with other agencies, to close the street down from 8 to 12 on the 2 streets.
And that's just coming Saturday, October 26th.
Saturday.
Mr. Morgan has seconded that motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Didn't we, several months ago, have a conversation about handicap signs over there?
You took
We did
motion.
with the church.
You took motion.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
actually made a motion. Has that been acted on?
You know, I went over there
I
today.
got caught into some Facebook stuff several weeks ago, and then this weekend it
We went over there
reignited.
today, the chief and I, to look at parking mess, and it is chaotic, and the church has removed its handicap signs.
Okay.
There was a handicap sign in front of the church, and literally somebody's removed it. It was not a town-owned sign, I think it was probably owned by the church. We're gonna come to the street committee and give you some recommendations about not parking in front of fire hydrants. Try to get some more order over there. You know, people need to go in the side door, especially on the weekends, and man, double park and run in and do their thing, and my wife is one of them, and all those kind of things. So, I don't have a obvious, easy solution, other than coming up with some more parking somewhere, you know, for the nursing home. I think, if that nursing home were built by today's standards, zoning standards, I think it'd be an appreciable increase in the number of cars, or parking spaces that would be provided.
There's room up front. I mean, of course, it's easy to tell the nursing home what they should do, but there's plenty of room between the parking lot and Lunenburg Avenue to have a vast parking lot. But of course, that's easy for me to say.
Maybe that's something we can sit down and discuss with the folks that own the place.
I hear
and operate.
a lot of gripe about how the parking lot's not used by the facility.
Not on the weekends, because the side door is the only one open. And
Right.
so, very few people, especially on Sundays and weekends.
But
park
should
in the parking lot.
residents have to suffer due to that?
Yeah, the church too. I mean, because
In the
everybody
church, yeah.
whips in right there on the 6th Street.
But it's public park on the street.
Correct, it is.
But why not the employees park in the parking lot behind? 'Cause that
A
would
lot of
take
them
up
are the
a-
ones parking on the side.
Exactly, that's what taking up a whole lot of the space.
It would be good, a good neighborly thing to do if employees were told to park in the parking lot, correct?
Yeah, I think that
We
would help
can't
out a
tell them,
lot.
I guess,
Good luck.
to do it, but
Yeah.
I can talk to
Good
the
luck with that.
administrator, let him know.
You
Right.
can prohibit parallel parking on that one side of the road in front of the house, but then the property owners suffer.
Yeah, and so do the visitors. And the visitors, I mean, you know, Heritage Hall is our largest private employer, so we give them props, and we don't, but we
Think
also
could
want to have
talk
some.
to him?
I'd like to go sit down and see if there's something cooperative we can do.
yeah.
Maybe
Yeah,
the
we don't
council
mandate
provide
anything.
millings and just build a rudimentary parking lot up there that State Drive and people could park on, just to alleviate some of that 6th Street. And it's been like that for 25 years.
It has. I mean, it's nothing new, but it seems like the frequency of which complaints are aired is increasing, maybe because of social media. But I can tell you, I used to go visit my mom, be in a hurry, and it's like, I got to park all the way up to the hill on 6th Street to go in the side door. But, you know,
We can clean the curbs out pretty quick and then just paint the corner at least. I mean,
Yeah, we're gonna ask you to allow us to put a couple signs, and the fire hydrant's a problem, the sight distance as you pull down, when you come to that T section at Academy, you look to your right or your left, I mean, cars are right at
yeah,
the,
you can't see.
and you can't see, so, and there's a fire hydrant at the corner, so we're gonna propose to the street committee a couple.
very good. The fire, just guilty admission, I've used that fire hydrant spot an awful lot. I mean, it just, place, building's made of brick and concrete, but,
Continue on,
anyway,
sir.
Isn't it state law you can't park in front
You're
of
not
it?
supposed to park.
15 feet?
I was thinking it was 20 or something, yeah.
Yes, we are
Regardless.
not always a good citizen.
We also, it's the Church of God across the street, I believe, right?
Yes.
That, they've reached an agreement with Heritage Hall that they are the evacuation point. So if anything happened at any time, we're able to take the residents at a Heritage Hall into the church for a staging area. If something happened in the winter, until we could get transportation to take them
That's
somewhere
great.
else.
That's great.
I guess, because I don't know if you'd fit 180 of them.
Oh, no, they'd be crammed, but Sixth Street is, plan and purpose is Academy Avenue is gonna be lined with ambulances to transport out of the church, if something of a major event was gonna happen. So
Great.
that's our in and out for Heritage Hall.
We appreciate y'all's dedication, y'all's training. This is one of those things that y'all do that we take for granted, but it's a weekend Saturday morning where a lot of folks are watching college football and sleeping late. Y'all are out there doing a drill that you never have to do.
Yeah. And then per town code, I listed our officer selections this year. And this just needs to be approved.
I do entertain a motion to approve the slate as we do every October. Have a motion by Ms. Hasbrook, seconded by Mr. Nash. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
And lastly, I just wanted to commend Philip Arms Sr. For 40 years of service this month.
Wow.
He is a runner-up, followed by Walter Mack is the lead. I believe he has 45 years of service, if I'm not mistaken.
And Diller was the longest, what, 63? The
Yes.
longest ever. He's deceased, obviously. But
Correct.
tell Philip he's got a little ways to go. We're proud of him.
He does.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for our chief? You're in the business.
From ladder truck?
I have not heard anything, but they stopped all awards on September 25th. Nothing's been posted after that.
Man.
Yep. So,
All right. Thank you, Chief. We're going to go to payment of the bills. You have your first batch of bills, and they total $871,019.36. These are the checks not yet approved. Anybody like to make a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Ms. Johnson's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Jones, a second. Any discussion? They're available for public review. They're pretty routine. Who votes first tonight? Mr. Miller? I believe I'll ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No.
That motion carries 7-0. And then you have your other bills that are segregated by department. They total $235,633.84. They're broken up by department. They also are available for public inspection.
Move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Miller has seconded Mr. Nash's motion.
Got it.
Mr. Nash usually has a few questions. Go ahead, Mr. Nash.
Under administration, and it's under several of them, we had talked about G Suite during, is this something new, that this is the new security type deal, or is this something we've had in there all the time, not just?
Yeah, we just switched it 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
We moved all it in there, and we've got cloud backup, and it's a quarterly bill, it's broke up by however many
Alright.
emails the department.
Under the same administration, Nottaway County, 2 rental inspections, that's reimbursable, correct? That's paid for by the property owners. And then under airport, you got Rebel Services fueling payment. I see there's a bill right before it, $17,442 for jet fuel. And then Rebel Services is $14,860 for fueling payment. What's the difference between the two? Are we selling over $30,000 worth of fuel, or?
I think that's just the comment in there is wrong. Rebel Services was where we got the new payment machine.
Our QT pod, which was the pedestal that you use your credit card to buy gas, was no longer serviceable. And so we replaced it, and that's what Rebel Services is.
Gotcha.
The other 17,000 is straight up buying fuel.
That's fuel itself.
That's fuel sales.
Titan is fuel.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions? All good. This is where your money goes. The bills are important. I'd ask for a roll call vote, starting with Mr. Miller on the motion.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 7-0 either. Let me guess, no one made the motion, did they?
No, no.
Oh, okay.
But I had the appropriations first, so we need to make sure we do approve the appropriations.
We do under your, before the bills. I read this packet Friday, but I was reading it in Blacksburg a little, maybe got a little carried away.
No wonder.
We have some appropriations. Mr. Van Norbeck, take it away.
Airport, $9,000. Again, the fuel management system upgrade. It was part of it, and it was a $9,000 particular charge. And I think Jennifer could probably answer. Is that part of that QT pod?
Yes.
It is. Okay. And she's asking that an appropriation be made to the airport. It was budgeted for last year, but the work was not done until this fiscal year.
How long, what's the lifespan of a system like that? I mean, $15,000, I mean, you've got to sell a heck of a lot of fuel.
Well, I think
That was the original one that was put in, and we built
It's been
that,
a long time.
those tanks in 1994.
I remember that. I remember
When we
that.
put them in.
Gotcha.
I remember that. I remember Hurricane Fran almost washed those tanks away
Yeah,
in
floated them.
1996.
That would be the first appropriation. Second appropriation, $72,900. That was included in your depreciation charge, and that's the contract amount between the town and River City contractors, River City electrical contractors. They're the ones that redid the work on Brunswick Avenue this year. If you remember, there was a significant amount of replacement of lines and cross arms and that sort of thing. That was the annual replacement project that we did. According to Jennifer's narrative, the auditors wanted to show that in professional services rather than depreciation, but we had the cash set aside.
Makes
And we
sense.
paid it out of cash. So
Makes sense.
they're asking that to be done. And the fire department is a $4,000 grant we received for the purchase of a turnout gear dryer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And I think the total cost was over $6,000. The difference between the four and the difference, or and the total amount was paid out of fire programs. And Dion, Eric, is it working? Have you been using it?
Looks like a Martian machine, but.
Is it working? Yes. There you go. You got a turnout gear dryer.
These appropriations are required, and they're brought to the council's attention just for the audience benefit. These are brought to our attention because they exceeded budget.
Our current budget doesn't have these figures in it.
Okay.
The 72,000 was shown in depreciation, but they want to be more specific and call professional.
I agree with that.
So you're just changing.
Right.
The budget.
I'd entertain a motion from council to approve the appropriations as presented. Ms. Hasbrook's moved, Mr. Nash has seconded. Due to the dollar value, I'll ask for a roll call vote by code, starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. We have a report from the Buildings, Property, and Cemetery Committee. Madam Chair, Ms. Hasbrook, I see there are no recommendations other than a report on the air quality at the Armory. Is that correct?
Well, we did discuss paint colors of the C-Park chair presented, and she would like to keep the colors of the buildings, which are working very nicely. They're being repaired. Everything's working very well.
Okay.
But do we need to bring up to a motion to approve what the C-Park committee does to approve paint colors and moving them back in, or is that something that we just allow the committee to work with?
From experience, I'll just tell you, because of C-Park, as I said, I would think council would, I think the proposal is, I don't want to, navy and gray, is that correct?
Navy and gray for the gazebo, and then they're going to use historical colors, different colors for each of the buildings, and they will not be placed back in the same spot. They'll be placed a little closer together, kind of like a town street, with hopefully getting a pathway. And am I correct on that, Jenny? Yes.
We have our C-Park chair in the audience.
Thank you very much for coming tonight.
I think just to keep everybody with the consensus going with C-Park, I think a motion would be in order to approve it.
Just to clarify, I think in what she said in the committee meeting was navy and gray was the flooring.
Flooring.
And then the outside was white, and then stain the ceiling inside, correct?
And the color outside, the exterior currently is white.
And adding a handrail to the back steps.
Good move. Good move. I'd entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jones is seconding Mr. Nash's motion. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Just a little FYI, are we going to get the lights, help me, Madam Chair, on the beautification committee, we discussed having the lights on the gazebo, the Christmas lights. Soft white, not yellow, is that correct?
No, she wants warm white, not cool. Yes. Well,
Is it 'cause-
LED, but as long as they're warm white.
Because our guys are in the process of decorating the park now, aren't they?
Yes, and they went and got lights the other day, and I think Charlie told me they didn't come in something in the LED. Like,
So these are the things that we would like to see.
So when they're
we'd like
starting-
to be a part, do together with them.
so when they're starting to decorate the gazebo, they need to call you.
When they start looking for things to buy, to decorate the.
No, they're just buying lights for the trees and stuff, but they were talking
Right.
about, because I think Citizens Bank normally does the top part of it, and then the town did the lights through the, I think the Citizens Bank.
Citizens Bank does the chandelier type thing that hangs down.
The icicle lights, yeah, I think they do that, and then the town did the lights on the.
Committee like to be put in the loop.
Yeah, we would like for everything to come to the committee.
Well, the only, like I said, I think the committee is great. I think that collaboration is probably a better word. Because if it gets, I'm gonna just tell you right now, if somebody has a bad day and there's a color that's crazy, or the public's gonna come, they're not gonna say, I demand to see the C-Park committee. They're gonna say, who's on council? What, y'all are crazy. So the collaboration, I think, is good. And y'all certainly should be in the loop, absolutely.
I mean, I'll put on record, I'm not really concerned about somebody getting angry about a rotten building having to be too hard, or, welcome to join the committee and volunteer as well.
Well said.
So we would like to be, for the efforts that we're putting forth, we would just like to, yes, collaborate on what is put in there, what is purchased, how it's put in there.
Yeah.
Working as a team.
And I see beautification member, Mr. Tom Taylor also.
Yeah, we'd like for y'all to check with the chairman, Jimmy Johnson, and Jennifer,
I think we have time to do so. I think a lot of times, in fairness to the town manager, I'm glad when I saw today that they were starting. That's great. I think that we've got time to do this thing, and we've been trying to increase communication. I think we can do it now. And we thank you. Thank you both.
put us in the loop.
And what color is it that you do want on the building?
Warm white.
Warm white.
You don't want
Not
You
LED.
don't want LED?
We also want
you
to
can get
include,
LED.
not just the gazebo in the motion, to also the other buildings to add to that, amend that motion.
Madam Chair, we'd like an additional motion to just to clarify that this council supports the placement of the buildings in closer proximity to one another to create maybe a Christmas village look. Would that be, who would like to make that motion?
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved, Father Christmas has moved. Is there a second?
Second, Mama Christian.
Mumble Christian is second. Any other discussion?
Do you need to talk about removing the rotten building?
Pardon?
Do that, removing the rotten building?
Which one is right, and the one in the back?
All of them are rotten.
Let's deal with the motion at hand first. Right now, the motion is of the buildings that are being repaired and they can be returned. You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So the buildings we close proximity, creating a Christmas village experience. Now, what's the other?
There are 4 additional structures that remain in the park. The town staff has taken on, we're gonna work on, Santa's house, because I think that's used. I think the Rotary has their building.
Yep.
The Santa house is just a squirrel nest. It's, the soffit boards are removed, and we're gonna work on that and wrap it and put vinyl or do something so we don't have a painting issue. So we're working on that house. The other 2, the one with the water wheel on the
Yeah,
side.
in the back, yeah.
And then there's another one close to the gazebo. The one close to the gazebo is rotten. That rascal, the roof is collapsed in the back of it.
Okay.
And I don't think we can get to it. We can do a temporary patch just to keep it dry. But ultimately, it's not in good condition either. And I'm not asking you to do it this 11th hour, this late hour. We plan on leaving it. We plan on doing what we can to keep it dry and then make that decision maybe at some other time.
I'd entertain a motion to authorize the town manager after Christmas 2019 to proceed with other repairs of houses in the park.
Did you want to check, see if it was okay with everybody on Facebook before you do that?
I would. Hold on, let me go live. Hold on, let me go live. Mr. Taylor.
Other word, those buildings coming back, right?
Great question.
No,
That's a question this council needs to
The
answer.
ones that are currently there now?
The ones that are still remaining in the park, they may be removed after Christmas. Will they come back? That's the question.
I think it would depend on what kind of.
I don't
shape
plan
they're
on
in.
moving any. They're too big to move. That's why part of the reason we didn't move them, because they're really big and a forklift thing will pick them up. The ones we removed are small. They're like portable sheds,
Right.
basically. They were easy to pick up. But that one in the park was gonna have to be worked on at the park.
I'd like to see, and I'd mentioned it before, and we're trying to create it with individual buildings, but instead of purchasing, maybe we can start with the faux street house on the front. Instead of replacing that one, you replace it by building something new on the backside to add to your street scene type thing.
other word, it'll be Little House on the Prairie. Okay. Go ahead.
What is your pleasure, council, on
Expectation is to return the 4 that we took to
that the scouts are doing a wonderful job
working
on?
on.
God bless them.
The intention is to bring those back. There's no plan to remove any others. I do agree with Jenny that it's in bad shape, but I think we're at this 11th hour. I can't find a way to move that shed. We're just gonna have to stabilize it. We are working on the exterior of the Santa house and trying to get that to look like a little improved.
How much effort would it be to take it down completely, that one that's so in bad repair?
We're
I
good
don't
at
think Philip's
demolition.
worried about demo. I think he's worried about replacing it in due time prior to Christmas.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get it done before Christmas if we're gonna try to build a new one or
Right.
something like that.
I think we should patch the roof temporarily until we.
Let me get us through Christmas and then we can all sit down and have a long kumbaya and figure out exactly what it
I
is we
think that's the
wanna
way.
do.
Madam Chair, what do you think?
I'd like to have it removed and then replace it after Christmas.
Remove before Christmas? Okay.
Madam Chair, what do you think? All right. Like I said, y'all on the front line, like I said, it's easy to fuss and go crazy on Facebook, but we do thank you. You're on the front lines, beautification in Sea Park, and we appreciate what y'all do. Don't want to lose sight of that. Members of council, common consent, do you want to do a motion on?
Motion.
The manager wisely requests a motion. What is your pleasure? Or remove,
I will concur with that as long as we can go back to the old days of having, and it's still in the old shed, and I've mentioned to Jenny before, the old Santa, I mean, I say old, the reindeer, the Santa, and rehang that.
Yeah, we haven't done that in the past few
Not
years.
so
Yeah.
much,
kids loved it. I'll tell you, my daughters loved it.
to not take so much stuff away. I don't want people to think, oh, you're taking stuff away and not adding. So,
More than happy to.
and
Right.
confer with
Have a
the.
little faith in what we're doing. We're not removing Christmas from the.
I know that.
The mayor has already put it out there that it's
That was
going to
their
be
thing.
bigger and better than ever. We're trying to live up to
Well,
that.
then I will, is that a motion? that-
We always talking about we want to replace blight.
I second that motion then, if Christine's.
Yes.
Well said, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Nash has moved to authorize the town manager to move and come replace after Christmas. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and duly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Shall be done.
God bless us, everyone. All right.
La, 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 la.
Moving right along, we've got another committee report. We have account,
You wanna do the air inspection?
Yes.
oh, I'm sorry, the Armory Air Quality, yes.
Yes, Mr. Osborne has contacted me saying that he has a company that is qualified to do an air quality test. He'd like to have permission to do that at the Armory.
At no cost to the
No
town.
cost to the town.
My only question would be when, could the council be apprised or staff when it's going to be conducted and how soon will we get the results back? Do we know?
Don't know.
Okay.
Is this for the whole building? Is that for just certain parts of it?
Typically, you do an air quality test of parts within the whole building, and you also do it outside, because sometimes the air quality right outside the building is just as bad or worse than it is inside. So, but you also take one farther out to make sure that you have a clear test. So,
I'd be curious. I mean, I'd like to know what the air quality is in my building, right here and everywhere. So if they want to do that in the Armory, I say, why not?
Well, it look great for the wedding.
But, so, what is the purpose of it? I mean, I'm not against it, I was just saying, what is the purpose of doing the air quality test while we're still in this?
Colonel Tom?
well, for one, our insurance company said we need to do that, because they're saying that there's a possible mold issue there, so we need to either show that it is or it isn't. And if we have the ability to do it at no cost, I would say, why not do it?
Okay.
This isn't, yeah, go ahead. I don't think this is, I know what you're concerned about. Go ahead.
Okay, so in other words, it's not gonna, you're gonna have the report, you're gonna get a report to council.
Absolutely.
Okay, 'cause,
It's our building.
yeah, okay.
Absolutely. All in favor, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second to Ms. Hasler's motion? Ms. Thompson's seconded to allow the air quality testing with the condition that this council get a report as soon as we can. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, and we thank,
I think you asked that the council be apprised, so we'll know.
yeah, I would like to, as soon as
What's
it,
gonna happen.
yeah, the council has authorized the test to go on, so council should receive the results of that same test.
But we also need to
But
know
we
when
know
they're
the
gonna
day.
do that.
Yes, we like to, yeah,
Right.
absolutely, because then we can know when to expect it, and when they go in, we like to know when we can expect the results. I'm curious, I'm not, there's no end game here, I mean, if somebody says, Billy, I'm gonna do an air test in town hall, or where you work every day, I'm like, sure, come on, I wanna know what it is. Moving along to the accountant finance report, Chairman Nash.
We've got several things, annual collection write-offs, which is a typical thing for ERMs. We have it in your packet.
Yep.
Writing off a total of $12,407.01.
Those are utility bills.
Utility bills.
How old are these, 5 years?
There's one that goes back to 1996.
Yeah, I think these are.
So we're not ceasing efforts, we're just it's a procedure where we're relieving you of the effort.
We believe that, if possible, we'll still try to collect it, but I do think it relieves the treasurer of the formal obligation to collect it, if we have an opportunity. But there is an explanation on why we're not, and why we're right now. People that are dead, that ain't gonna change.
Right.
Or
People that,
ERMs can't collect under $5, so that's that's quite a few of them.
It is.
But then
some bankruptcies.
Deceased is the biggest thing.
Yeah, deceased, bankruptcies, things like that.
I authorize a motion, I entertain a motion.
What is under $5 mean?
Under $5 is that ERMS, which is a system that we use through the state of Virginia to collect on, say you win $1 million in the lottery, but you owe the town $500 in an old utility bill. We would get the $500 out of your lottery.
Or a tax
proceeds.
refund check. If you get a tax refund,
refund,
they
any of
skim
that
it.
sort of
They
thing.
skim
But
it.
if you owe us less than $5, it's not worth ERMS going and
They
doing
won't-
it.
they
So
won't
that's
do it
what
for
we're
less than
having to write off.
But there's some hefty accounts
These are
here.
ones in here too,
Oh,
though.
yeah, you got bankruptcy several times, 1,500, 1,000. I mean,
This is a standard motion the council makes every year, and I'd entertain a motion to approve
so
it.
moved.
Mr. Nash has moved, Mr. Miller has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, by code, I must do a roll call. It's over 10 grand, starting with Mr. Miller.
Aye.
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 That motion carries. Next, you, go ahead.
Discuss commercial garbage rates. We're looking into that. Tom has actually been working pretty diligently on that, so we'll come back with that closer to budget season. Consumption tax, do you have anything now, or?
I think that there is a, yeah.
And just for the audience benefit, on commercial trash rates, just so y'all know, currently they're paying, commercial pays a flat fee of,
The smallest commercial and the biggest commercial pay the same. A McDonald's or a restaurant logically would use a lot more collection than, say, Barber's Blackstone
or
Realty.
Picker's Place.
Or Picker's Place, but they pay the same garbage rate.
Biggest thing we're looking at is some people have not only one dumpster, but 5.
Right.
And get picked up 5 times a week.
Yeah.
So you're getting a whole lot more usage.
Yeah, apples and oranges
So-
ought to have different rates.
The consumption tax, Philip has it on here, and if you, at your desk, Jennifer provided an example on my bill. The government is going up on our rate, and we're just passing it through. And so what we're doing, we're showing you an example, and I believe we're gonna advertise for public hearing.
I think logically, because it is a rate increase, I think, even though it's almost mandatory from the state, virtually, they're gonna charge us that, so.
And don't be alarmed, my bill, I don't know what they're basing it off here, it's just, I guess, an average bill, or no, the bill from this past month. I was paying a consumption tax of $2.15. With the new rate, I'm gonna pay a consumption tax of $2.19. But
2%, or
yeah.
not even that.
So we just wanna be outright with the public and just have a public hearing and offer that to them. Nothing we can do about it.
No.
We've gotta either eat it ourselves or pass it on.
When will we know for sure? Do we know for sure?
Oh, this is gonna happen.
I'd entertain a motion to have a public hearing as soon as possible. Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Morgan has seconded, and this is just standard procedure, but it's our policy here at council, when there's a change in your rate going up, we want you to know about it, and we have a public hearing, even when we're not really required to. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
And Philip, you can talk about the reserve CD.
The last $700,000 that we have to put into our reserve fund, as you know, we currently have $2 million in a CD with Benchmark Bank, and we have $1 million with VML VACO 1-3 High Bond Fund, which is an investment fund, if you remember. The current gross yield on that VML VACO is at 2.43. You see Citizens Bank's quote included, BB&T with no bid. But Benchmark Bank, the only reason that they're significantly higher is because we have a current CD and we're entitled, as part of our agreement when we initially put the money in there, that we're gonna add to it any time. And that would be 2.58%. And it would just add $700,000 to an existing CD. And you can see the rates, the other rates. I would not recommend using VML VACO. I think we're learning. I think we're trying to figure out how those things fluctuate and go up and down and all those kind of things. So before we add to that, I would say take the safe.
And this, if we go with Benchmark, this does not prolong the CD, it just adds it so the maturity would still come up at the same time.
The maturity
And you
is
still have that one penalty-free withdrawal, correct?
Correct.
And we still have one penalty-free withdrawal.
That's an
And we
excellent deal.
can draw the interest at any time
Right,
without penalty.
correct. If you go to principal, you get one-time principal, and that second-time principal penalty. You see the committee's recommendation to go with Benchmark at 2.58%, which is pretty doggone good these days. Because of well, I'll entertain a voice vote. All in favor say aye.
I make the motion first.
Okay, please, Mr. Nash. I'm not in a hurry to see football tonight. Is there a second to Mr. Nash's motion?
I second.
Ms. Hasbrook, second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. And last but not least,
We have Chromebooks, I don't know if Ms.
Ah.
Hardy wants to talk about it, or Philip? I don't know if Philip's really.
I'll do my best, and enclosed for your consideration, and you, as you mentioned, the Gmail and the G Suite transition, we did have a problem with the police department with a ransomware recently. We've decided, and staff-wise, we haven't changed our email addresses. We were able to keep those, but instead of using Outlook, we're now using Gmail. But our emails have stayed the same. We were able to keep those the same. Jennifer did a good job kind of organizing this and coordinating it. We want to take it one step further now. There is an opinion from our VRSA, Virginia Risk Management folks that through VML VACO, stating that individual elected folks need to have clear, definitive delineation between private emails and those which are FOIable. Okay, and so what we're proposing is to purchase each of the council people a Chromebook. Your board package will come to you, your coordination, your correspondence from the town, your formal correspondence, and provide to each of you a new email address. We may be able to keep either Tom's or maybe Ms. Hasbrook's, because it would be something approximately like that, Ward D, Ward A, Ward B, that sort of thing that could be hand-on to the next. In order to purchase these Chromebooks, and we're going to try to get away from some of this and get her home at a reasonable hour, because she's not making copies and doing that sort of thing. Bound copies can still be made available, but we'd like to start corresponding with you on Chromebook, of which 12. The committee recommended 12, and the cost was over $4,700, $47.99.88, and that was a procured price.
But over time, this document here, folks, and this is a thick one, making these 9 and 10 at a time.
17.
17, you make 17 every month. It won't take long to achieve savings. Achieve this.
It's less than, I figured it was 1.7 years before we recoup your cost of the Chromebooks.
Okay.
So.
The one thing you said is very important, folks. This is, and as long as we've all been on email, most of us probably 10, 20 years, it's still the great frontier as far as FOIA law, because I don't mind telling y'all, I get a lot of requests from constituents, and I'll